another episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. I am your host, Alethea Felton, and I want to welcome you to the show. If you are new, I welcome you to this Power Transformation movement. We are changing lives one episode at a time with stories of resilience, overcoming adversity, transformation, and taking huge leaps of faith. And my guest today is no exception. And of course, I want to thank those of you who have been with me from the beginning. This guest rather, is so special to me because Melody Pinkney, who is our guest today, is someone that I have literally known for nearly 30 years. Yes, I first met Mel when I was approximately 12, 13 years old. And she graduated high school with my older sister, Dina. And Melody has been a friend of our family for literally over 30 years. And that's how I know her. And of course, her lovely younger sister, Shakara, who is also a couple of years older than I am. Now, what's so cool about it is when I went to high school, my freshman year, my sister, Dina, was a senior. So Melody was also a senior. So it was actually absolutely all the rage to be in high school as a freshman and have a sister who's a senior. And I also had a cousin who was a senior as well. My cousin Nita was also a senior at the same high school. And so all of my sister's friends knew me and they looked out for me. So my freshman year, I had such a village, a community at Indian River High School in Chesapeake, Virginia, where Principal James Fry was the principal. And Principal Fry had a way of making everybody feel loved, welcomed, safe. And Indian River was really a community. And so it's so much fun having Mel on this show today. And also, Melody, I did interview her a while back. And so I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to tell you about her website and her product offering now, because at the time it was ready, but it wasn't exactly the way Melody wanted it to be. And so I wanted it to be exactly how she desired. So I told her I would hold off airing this. So now I do have it. So I want you to write down this website so that you will have it. www.sassysolutions.shop. That's www.sassysolutions.shop. And of course, I'll have it in the show notes because Melody has all things that you need to help organize your home. She has a laundry sorter. She has other interior decorating products. She has digital products as well. I'm telling you that Melody can get your life right when it comes to organization. And so her story is one where she left the corporate world to pursue full-time entrepreneurship. And it was truly a leap of faith. So we're going to dive right into this interview. And again, it is my honor having her, and I'm so excited. I always begin the Power Transformation Podcast with an affirmation, and it is because we speak those things as if they are. We are speaking them into existence. And the more that you say a positive affirmation, you are affirming that which you desire in your world and in your life. And so therefore, I will say the affirmation once, and you repeat it. I am courageous and confident, embracing the unknown with a heart full of faith and determination. Melody, it is such an honor to have you on the Power Transformation Podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Is it okay if I call you Lily or you want me to say Alethea?
You better call me Lily.
Okay. Thank you, Lily. I really appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity.
Of
Great
course.
talk.
And
Uh-huh.
look, my listeners have heard some guests call me Lily, others call
Hmm.
me Alethea, but you hands down, Lily, that's how you've known me. We ain't gonna change it up here. So yes,
All
that's
right now.
know me. So, Mel, you really have a journey that I think is absolutely incredible and can be of light and hope to a lot of people. And we're going to get into that. But first, I always like to ask just a random icebreaker question, something fun, lighthearted that can get us as the listeners to know you even more. And it has nothing to do with what we're going to talk about, but it's just fun. Melody, what
Mhm.
is either past or present? What is your favorite candy and why?
Ooh, okay. You know what? I was wondering, I know I listened to your other podcast and I know you
Mm.
asked this question. I'm like, what kind of question would I get? So this is good because I like sweets. But my favorite candy, I'm kind of a chocolate girl, even more so now than before. And what I found that I've noticed that I start liking a lot more. I like peanut butter chocolate stuff. Like Reese's Cups is probably
Really?
my go-to. Yeah, I love a good Reese's Cup. That's probably my favorite. Yep.
Okay, now, as an expansion question, I'm not sure if this is going to sound kind of hood or classy, but do you like your Reese's cups chilled or cold, or
Mm,
you can eat them
mm-mm,
room
mm-mm.
temperature?
I like mine room temperature or actually warm is fine too. And it's funny, yes, it's funny because my husband and my bonus daughter, they like cold chocolate. Like they'll put stuff in the freezer. And I'm telling them
Yeah.
all the time, like, ew, like why do y'all that take to me it loses flavor. It's not bringing out the flavor. So I'm not a cold chocolate person. And a little insight to me, I used to could not stand polar bars growing up. My parents would
Really?
love them. Yes, crunchy chocolate on ice cream.
Yeah.
Could not stand it. Did not like it. To this day, I could eat it, but it's not my favorite. So I'd like more room temperature warm chocolate.
Now that's interesting because when it comes to Reese's cups and even M&Ms, I have to have my cold. So
Really?
yeah, I
Oh my
do.
gosh, that is so funny.
That is funny. Okay. So Melody, since we know that aspect about you, let's start to learn more about you. So who is Melody Pinkney?
Hmm. Well, it's funny because I'm still finding out as we go, right?
Mm,
But Melody Pinkney, if I just were to describe me right off the top, I am a daughter, I'm a wife, stepmom or bonus mom. I'm a sister. I like to think of myself as a really good friend. Like I cherish relationships. So anybody I consider myself a friend to, I care about you. I pray for you. I think about you. I check in on you. So I'm a loyal friend. And I'm a fun-loving person. I love life. I love to have fun. As some people know, they're like, you're always laughing. And I'm like, I can't help it. It's just in me. Me and my sister, we like giggle
yeah.
boxes, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, and I'm an entrepreneur as I'm learning even more as I grow. And that's something that has evolved over the years. I
Mm,
didn't realize that when I was younger, but I have realized that's a trait that you kind of I actually think it's hereditary, to be honest. But I'm a teacher and an encourager. And I'm a woman of faith and a woman of God. So that's
indeed.
probably ways I describe myself.
Yes, indeed. And in terms of you even being a woman of faith, I have been a recipient of so many prayers and acts of
Mhm.
kindness from you over the years and your sister and
Mhm.
just so many people in that circle. And I am just very grateful for you. And that's why, as I continually think about guests who can fit into the mold of what this podcast is really about, you came to mind. And so that's why I reached out
Mhm.
to Dina and I said, just ask her if it's something she would be interested in. And I'm so grateful that you are. And so I want to kind of go back a little bit to get to where we are. So you, Melody, worked in corporate America and
Mhm.
you're a full-time entrepreneur now. And what you do is you help do professional organizing and also you do property management for short-term rentals, amongst other things, because you do carry a lot of hats.
Mhm.
So, first of all, what was that journey or what prompted you to even want to pursue a career in corporate America? And while you were in that corporate world, what did you do?
Mm. Okay. Full transparency. What got me to go down that road? To be honest, I just in my mind, it was never a thought of like not going to college and stuff. Both my parents are college grads, and that kind of is just if you grew up in a household where you had family who graduated, that was kind of the expectation, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So that was just what I knew I would do. However, comma, I didn't know I didn't know exactly for a while what field I wanted to go into. Nothing kind of really stood out particularly, but I did at one point thought I wanted to be a veterinarian because I liked animals,
Oh, I
more
never knew
particularly
that.
dogs. Yeah, particularly
Yeah.
dogs. I always wanted a dog. So, and then also I entertained. Well, my dad kind of was like, "Well, that's another form of being a doctor. That's 8 years of of schooling." And I was like, "Oh, maybe I don't want to be a veterinarian anymore." So that kind of threw that out the window. And then I thought I wanted to be a psychologist, right? And wanted to study psychology because
I see
I
you
was
in that.
always in, you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was always just intrigued about the way people think and, just learning different philosophies and, that thing kind of always intrigued me. So I was like, maybe I'll go in that area. And then my dad was like, well, if you want to go down that road, that's nice. He was like, but just think about when you try to get out and try to get a job. Like, it's not going to be that easy. He was like, and my mom too, they were like, depending on what field you pick, some more general fields, you may have to either follow up with some master programs or, it may be harder to find something. So my logical side kind of kicked in and I was like, oh, well, I don't know about that anymore.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well, I don't really know what I want. But my dad was always really into computers growing up, which was he kind of, in my mind, set him a little ahead of the game for a lot of people because everybody wasn't into technology. But
Indeed.
he always, yeah. And I mean, I'm born in 78. So
Uh-huh.
during the 80s, and he had, the latest computers, and him and my uncle, they always collected and had them. And he would teach us how to use the little floppy disk and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we would learn how to do, load 8, 1, comma 8, 1, or load whatever. So so we knew how to do that and set up games and stuff. So he kind of introduced us into computers, and he did make note that okay, well, if you get involved with computers, then you'll probably always have a job because that is kind of the way of the future. And so I was like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense, even though I wasn't super into computers like that.
Mhm.
But then I said, okay, well, what kind of fields deal with computers? And I'm like, okay, somehow I stumbled across computer science. And I was like, well, that sounds like computers to me.
Mhm.
Like maybe that's the type of field I need to get into. And
Yeah.
so that kind of started that path. And needless to say, my sister and I went down that road and got our computer science degree from Norfolk State University.
Mhm.
And that kind of opened the world of technology and where that opened a big world for as far as being able to get a job coming out of school. And a huge, it really set you on another path and gave you an advantage because, especially for women of color and things of that nature, people are definitely looking for to hire people in those fields, of
Mhm.
science and technology. So I connected with it. My parents are definitely sciencey people. They graduated. My dad physics, my
Uh-huh.
mom biology. So so that kind of became my path. And my first job I got out of college was with Lockheed Martin
Mm.
as a systems engineer. And I stayed in that field for about 20 years,
Wow.
doing technology type jobs. So
Now, just a little random follow-up because you know, I don't think I've seen your parents since your wedding, but hearing your father say, well, if you want to become a vet, that's going to be this amount of time. It's like, I think deep down inside, he wanted you to go down that, you know,
down that
Buddha's
road.
route. Uh-huh. That's what I
Oh
think.
yeah. Well, I think definitely he did use his influence for
That's
that.
right.
And
That
I
was
kind of
smart
have always.
though. Yeah.
It is. That
Yeah.
was and I thank God about that because God is there's the dreamer side of us and then there's the logical side. And
Yeah.
God is like that, and you have to balance your life with those things. And I thank God for that advice because on the side of leaving 4 years of college and
Mm.
then wanting to start off and have a job and stuff like that, it was, like I said, it was a very good advantage, even though I'm consider myself a dreamer, and
Uh-huh.
in my mind I'm like, oh, what does he know? He just wants, he's just giving me this advice for something, this is boring. I really don't want to do that. I want to follow my heart. I want to follow my passions, and all that. And I think that's perfect and that's good and that's great. But also that's why you have parents, they give you
That's
the
right.
other side of things that say, hey, that's great, but you might get out here and struggle for longer than you want to.
Yeah.
And what I did learn from that is taking that logical road and getting into that field. It was something I still enjoyed, but it also opened up doors for me to fund my passions. And that was huge because a
Yes.
lot of people struggle with their dreams, but they don't have the money to support and do those things because they find
Mhm.
themselves so long trying to just make ends meet that they don't even have time to work on their dreams.
Yeah.
So, I believe that God, He in His infinite wisdom, He
Hmm.
knows how to plant your path. So don't always buck up against it. Sometimes just go with it.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean?
I
Because
do
He knows.
completely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
completely understand that. And I think that what your father and mom
Mm-hmm.
instilled in you all of those years ago still allow the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity for you to eventually follow your dreams once you got to know
Mm-hmm.
more about yourself and
Yeah.
this place and space in life. And so that actually leads me to this next question in terms of Mel, in what ways did your previous corporate experience prepare you for the world of entrepreneurship?
Okay, my previous corporate experience preparing me for entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, one of the things I've learned through my corporate experience, even though when with entrepreneurship, you're kind of feel like a team of one.
Hmm.
What you realize coming through the corporate world is everything is teams, everything is working together to meet goals. And I think you have to take those type of experience and bleed it over into your entrepreneurial journeys because I don't think anything that ends up being successful
Hmm.
is anything you're going to do on your own, right? And even though you may have the ideas, you may have the vision, it's
Yeah.
not going to all happen just by yourself. You have to create relationships. You have to be
Hmm.
able to scale. I heard a message the other day about a lot of entrepreneurs and small businesses sometimes don't succeed because we don't know how to scale. And scaling requires relationships and connections and building and all of that. But from the corporate world, just the structure of just and being diligent and focused and goal oriented because again, I'm the type of person where, if I didn't have the structure of going to a 9 to 5 and having meetings,
Hmm.
that where you had to show up on time, like they start right away,
That's right.
as I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Um, and it is just one of those things where you build a certain level of respect for order and for just having to do things a certain way to succeed, and again, like I said, goals, they have schedules, the corporate world, you have meeting deadlines, you have deliverables and
That's
all of
right.
those things. And that helps build your work ethic and build your sense of urgency to get things done.
Hmm.
Timelines, people are dependent on you for something. You can't just do things to the beat of your own drum all the time. And I think that's been a blessing because I take that mindset into my entrepreneurship role. Granted, I don't have all the skill set of all the people who I've worked with. I'm working with my own abilities and skills. So, in that sense, My scheduling and things of that nature may be a little more flexible, which is
Mhm.
great. However, it stays in the back of my mind, like, okay, Mel, if you've got these goals, let's create a plan, right? Let's set some deadlines to things that'll push you along. And so I think that ethic comes from, being in that corporate world. I'm very grateful to have had that to bring over into the entrepreneurial world.
That's really interesting you would say that because it's even given me something to even think about. And I appreciate that because, as you know, I was a public school educator for 20 years. And although I've done entrepreneurship since my 20s, I was doing it part time. But I have to
Mhm.
say, before I retired early, the last few years of my career were spent in HR. And in that role in human resources, although it was still in a school system, that role I had specifically was tight on terms of deadlines,
Mhm.
deliverables,
Oh,
action.
yeah.
Not to say being school based wasn't, but honestly, it was different.
Right.
Whereas within HR, you have to have
Yeah.
certain
Mhm.
things done by this
Yep.
time, no ifs, ands, or
Mhm.
buts about it. And
Yeah.
so that's a really good observation that you made. And so sometimes people can see you of where you are now, like, wow, she had this corporate role. Now she's an
Mhm.
entrepreneur. And sometimes
Mhm.
people see a person's glory without knowing their story. And so, Mel,
Mhm.
this starts to get into the transformative piece of it. Is tell us about some of those initial challenges you encountered when starting to pivot into full-time entrepreneurship, and how did those challenges change you, and how did you overcome them?
Mm. Oh, that's good. Hmm. Well, challenges are inevitable and they steadily pop up.
Yes,
Different ones and show up in different
every
ways
day.
all the time, right? And I think starting off, you have to have the right mindset, right? I think you have to go in, and what I have, I think has been part of my success to be able to still continue is I have gone in knowing it's not going to be a straight and narrow path that, and everything's going to work out and everything's going to follow a perfect schedule and things of that nature. So I've already had my mind programmed that, this is a journey. You hear people say that a lot of times, but it is. And so, but I always also believe you should go in with the plan,
Mhm.
right? Try to work your plan, but be flexible. And so some of the challenges I have encountered, uh, I would say, so one, I first of all live in Northern Virginia.
Mhm.
So they make a lot of money up here, right? And so
Yeah.
the jobs that you have, you may not think about it as much, but then when you look at it in perspective of the whole United States,
Girl.
they say Loudoun County is the number one on the map, most
Mhm.
expensive place, median income. And so I think you can kind of lose focus that you really are a blessed area.
Yeah,
And so you get these jobs that pay good money, and you get used to these paychecks every couple of weeks, and it's like, oh, you live
that's
in the
right.
good life.
Uh-huh.
And then if you go the route to decide, you know what, I'm going to pursue my dreams, I'm going to be an entrepreneur. Well, those checks stop.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
And so if you don't already have your mindset ready to, that, this is not going to be a journey that's going to be flower and roses, especially financially starting out, then, you can make it if your mind's already ready for that. And so I think that's one of the things I had to have a plan. I had to strategize on how I'm going to make this type of a transition, and that's kind of how my organizing mind has helped me because I had to also be able to communicate with my husband because
Yes.
I got married. I got
Uh-huh.
married later in life. I think I was 39. And so you can't at that point just make random decisions and say, hey, this is what I'm doing, and drag people along with you. So
Mhm.
you have to kind of be on board. And so that's where the strategizing becomes key. The communication becomes key. The goals become key, and realizing that, okay, you're going to have to pace yourself because, again, with it not being just me anymore, I, I have to realize that other life things are incorporated now, that maybe that rigorous or timeline I had for myself,
Hmm.
maybe I have to add an extra year for it. You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
also I always believe in work-life balance. And I'm not one of these people who is like, I'm gonna work myself into the ground for this and that and
Hmm.
be totally off balance with my family life and all that kind of stuff. I don't believe in that. I believe God's a God of balance. And he created the world in 7 days, but he also had a day of rest, right?
Hmm.
And so I do believe in including and incorporating that into your goal planning and goal setting. And so I have had to learn how to manage those goals, manage real life, managing my time, to be successful and know that I know the end game of goals that I'm going for, but it also may not play out exactly how I might plan it. And that's okay. You know what I mean? And so, and then again, the financial piece as well, realizing areas I may need to scale back on. One of the things my husband always says, he's like, I don't know that you plan to be an entrepreneur financially. It's like you like to live life like you always have. And I'm like,
Uh-huh.
okay, guilty because, we have two kind of different concepts about finances too. He's more of a manager, money manager, right?
Okay.
I'm more of the visionary of I see how if you don't have something, this is how you can go get it,
Yeah,
right?
I
Make
understand.
room for more, right? Go if you
Uh-huh.
don't have it, go get it, right? He's more of take what you have and manage it well. Like if you don't have anything else, you got $5, you need to plan to know how to use this $5
Yeah,
where you're not broke. You know what I mean?
I
So we're
do.
learning how to balance those mindsets. And again, I think they're both important because
Yeah,
usually God places you with people who are not going to be exactly the way you think.
that's
So,
true. I agree. I've seen that in my own relationship, but it works
yes.
though that way. It really does. But I
Yeah.
completely see that, and I think
Mhm.
in that case, you need both worlds. And I'm glad you brought up your husband
Mhm.
because I was going to mention that is that deciding to make a pivot like this is one thing
Mhm.
if you're single, but it's another thing if you're married and have a whole
Yes.
husband or a whole wife. And so you have to bring them into the fold of
Yep.
it or things can
Mhm.
really go awry. So
Mhm.
how important has it been that your husband has really been on board with you? How has that
Mhm.
enhanced your
Mhm.
journey?
Okay. So thank goodness, my husband, like I said, he's one of these people who knows a little bit about everything.
Mhm.
I feel like there's nothing I can't bring to him that he hasn't met somebody or he's experienced it or he knows something about everything.
Mhm.
And so I come to him for advice about things a lot of times just to get a second opinion, point of view, even though we do kind of think differently. But again, it's good to have, different
Mhm.
versions and opinions and points of view. And so I think it's been a little bit of a um, bringing him on with me it has increased our level of having to communicate.
Okay.
And that's again, when you think a certain way, you don't second kind of guess the way you think. So you just go forward with things and just,
Yeah.
but then you'll run into, you might run into a hiccup. And then I've had, my husband like, oh, okay, well, again, like I said, Melody, you spin like you like you're not
Uh-huh.
working. So one of the things that has helped with me is um I've always worked on entrepreneurial things while I was in my corporate job. So I couldn't imagine a life of not following those dreams and pursuing them on some level, right?
Okay.
So as I've gone through the years, I've always slid aside money, set aside things that I can help fund myself if I needed to do little things here and there that wouldn't strain if I were to, get married and have to, we split our expenses and things of that nature. So I've always kind of know that, if my husband's not the type who's really into that type of thing, then I still can pursue it. So I have always kept, like the extra savings and things of that nature, which has helped me because I've taken the last year and pursued this full time, right? And so the agreement we had for him, where we met on the same page is I told him, I said, babe, I really want to, I've been in work for about 20 years now. And I'm kind of like at a point where it's like now or never. You know what I mean? Like if I'm ever going to pursue this, I need to make some real moves. Because I got to the point at my office job, I was dreaming still about what I want to do, trying to do my work. And it was like at some point, I'm like, I'm going to have to try to make some kind of transition. So I asked him, I said, can you give me a year? Can you give me a year to try to pursue this and see if I can get something going, outside of the job? And if not, I'll go right back in there. Right. So I felt like that was a compromise. So he said, okay, well, the thing I would need you to do is just take care of your any personal debt you have. Like handle your personal debt, and then I'll handle the house. And so that was our agreement. And when the time came for me to leave my job, granted, that's another story, but it was 2 months before I had planned. But we had a plan, right? And so was able to live off of what I had saved for a while, alongside with what my husband was doing for the household. And so that kind of became our little compromise. And now I'm at that year point. And I'm kind of pleased with where I am. I'm not totally where I want to be, but my main goal is kind of checked off. And I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so that does mean a lot to have the support of your husband in this journey. But what actually had you decide and say, okay, I want to do this full time? And that's with you having this organization business. Where did that come from? And how do you help people in that aspect?
Okay. So I did get to the point, like I said, where I wanted to do it full time because when work start feeling like I'm a big person on purpose, right? And I believe in there are seasons of life. And I believe God starts revealing more and more when your seasons are changing, if you're paying attention. And again, like I said, it was kind of more of a trigger for me when I realized how much more my free time, I wanted, like I would come home from work and I'm thinking about my business, all day, and I'm coming up with ideas and I'm writing stuff down and I'm trying to do stuff on my free time towards that. And then I'm like, okay, I knew at some point I was like, I can't stay in both worlds forever. Like either it's going to be a hobby that I just kind of enjoy on the side, or as they say, a side hustle. But it was more to it to me than just a side hustle to make money. It was me applying the purpose of my life to my life in this new stage. Right. And like I said, I've done it before. I've had a couple of things that I've always pursued on the outside that kind of satisfied that need. But now I wanted to make it into where I can make it monetary and can replace, because you got to have income, right? You got to be able to pay your bills. So you kind of got to merge those where I want to do these things, but I have to make it profitable and something that I can replace my 9 to 5 with, and still be able to full-time do that. So then it became a quest on figuring out, how can I do this, right? How can I make this happen? Like you said, and I'm not starting off jumping out into my dreams right out of high school or right out of college. I've already created this life of 9 to 5, and so I've created bills, I've created responsibilities and all these things. And so I had to figure out a way to wean myself to this space. And like I said, thank God for that's where my organization piece has helped me with that. And even in the 9 to 5 job, I had people around me who started saying, have you ever thought about being a project manager? And I started hearing that more towards the end. And I was like, before I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
But my mind started working that way a lot more with the organization piece and trying to manage things, and so I think those things all kind of marry together. And so that's kind of how I would say I could help someone in that same situation. If you have already gone down the 9 to 5 road and then you're trying to pursue your dreams. I mean, always know your purpose,
Yeah.
And I think another good piece of advice to that is it just burns in me. It's almost like in the Bible, they talk about a fire shut up in your bones,
Your
right?
bones. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
kind of like that because it's like it never dies. You know what I mean? Even if you like,
Exactly.
I can't do that right now. I don't have the money. I think true entrepreneurs, it's a burn in you that just never goes away.
Girl, yes. It doesn't. It just doesn't go away. And
That's it.
I know for me, sometimes I couldn't quite explain it, but it's also always evolving. And that leads
Mm-hmm.
to the
Mm-hmm.
next question is how has your, and just pay attention to how I word this, and you can answer it any way that you want, but how has your understanding of your personal purpose evolved throughout your journey as an entrepreneur? And Mel, how has it influenced your decision making?
Mm-hmm. How's my personal
Personal
purpose?
purpose evolved? How has it morphed? How has it changed or shifted or grown throughout your
Okay.
entrepreneurial journey? But also, more importantly, how has your understanding of your personal purpose influenced your decision making?
Mm. Okay. You know what? From that, it makes me think on a higher level. So I'm a high level thinker. Like I
Yeah.
think from the top down, right?
Yes. Go ahead, girl. Yes.
And it make when you say that, my personal purpose, um, for one, I know I'm here to glorify God, right? On a
Mhm.
very high level, right? And he's the source of where I go first to see, okay, God, at this stage of life, what is my purpose? What am I supposed to be focusing on? These are the type of conversations and prayers that I'm having. And of course he reveals them in different ways. But I always go to the source first, right? And then from there, again, like I said, I believe life goes in seasons and so forth. He'll start showing me. And there's sometimes there are things that from way back I was thinking of or working on, and the season may come around. Well, now this is the new thing, right? This is the
Mhm.
focus for now. And it's not always about me. It's about maybe what the needs are of people
Mhm.
around in this particular season, right? And so I think to answer that, like my focus is really trying to serve and seek God first. It's when it comes to my
Mhm.
purpose, because I believe He can use your talents, your skills, what He put in you in any season, in any space,
Mhm.
right? So sometimes I think people box themselves in and say, "Well, this is my one purpose." I don't necessarily believe, in just a one purpose. I believe He gives you the talents, the abilities, and He moves them along in seasons, and He places you where He needs you for that reason and for the
Yeah.
people who need what you have to offer.
Mhm.
And so for me, which shows why I've been able to pivot at times, and not feel like, oh my God, I'm lost and I'm off track. You know what I mean? I'm not doing what I was supposed to be doing right now. No, because sometimes he will shift that for a while for some, for whatever reasons. Could be financially, could be just the need at the time. But that's kind of how I navigate that. I
Got
just
you.
always go back to him in prayer. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And try not to be, because I believe he's the orchestrator, right? He's
Mhm.
the beginning and end of our faith. And like I said, you can have in your mind, and I've read too many books and things where people have said, I planned to go down this road and this and that happened. And God took me down this road. I wrote a book instead, and
Yeah.
now it's instead of it reaching the 100 people I wanted to reach, it's reaching tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
So he kind of can switch up things a little bit. And I think the best way to get a feel of that and be able to apply my personal purpose is to just stay connected to God and trying to do what I feel like He's putting in me in that season. If
What
that makes sense.
Yes, it makes total sense. And so it begs the question, what have you learned about adaptability and resilience in this journey?
Mm. Mhm. Well, adaptability, yeah, yeah. Like I was saying, it's really um adapting to your new financial situations, just and being open, and not having to have things exactly your way all the time.
Girl,
And
yeah.
see, and then yeah, and then seeing the good in it. Like,
Mhm.
okay, you know what if we decided, me and my husband have discussed before too. He's like, Melody, the way you want to do this or that, we might would have to downgrade to a one bedroom apartment and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, first of all, I'm like, no, I don't know about that. But However, I have toyed with the idea. I was like, okay, what if we picked up and like moved down south, and I thought about it and I was like, I could go to a smaller home. I don't need all the things that I think. Now, granted, I
Yeah.
one day would love to have me the big, beautiful home because I've always dreamed of that.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's almost like a fun journey to me. Like, okay, give me a small home, let me fix it up, make it cute, make it this. And if that's what we need to be to financially get in a good, better space for a while,
Yeah.
I'm all for it. You know what I mean? Let's try something new. Especially with like tiny houses and all this type of stuff. I
Yep.
think it's kind of cool, right? So I
Mhm.
start trying to look at things like a journey and a fun project and things like that. And it helps you keep your joy. It helps you to adjust when situations change that some people might fall apart with. Oh my God,
Mhm.
I don't have the big house anymore. Oh my God, I had to take a smaller job and I had to get out here. Girl, I went out here the other day and I was like, oh, Lord, I need some money at this point.
Yup.
Literally, I downloaded what is it? Not DoorDash because they were full. I downloaded
Lift.
Instant
Oh
Cart and
yeah.
Spark Driver. And I was like, you know what? I got out there and did me a run, and it was fun actually. And I was
Uh-huh.
like, you know what? If I have to do this couple of times in the meantime while I'm waiting for something else,
Yup.
I'm not too prideful, to do what I need to do. And I think that's huge too, is don't have pride. You adjustments come and it may not be something you would normally want to do or
Mhm.
have to do, but take it in stride. You know what I mean? We gotta sometimes
Mhm.
put on our big girl panties or big
That's
boy
right.
panties pants
Yeah.
and take life in stride and just see the joy in it, see the silver lining and whistle while you work. All those things
Yeah.
keep joy in your life. It keeps perspective, it keeps you grounded, it keeps you grateful, it keeps you focused and just in tune with life and how life is. And so I count it a
Yeah.
blessing now. You know what I mean? As I've
Yeah.
grown, I count it a
And
blessing. Yeah.
really, really quickly, I
Mhm.
also think it keeps you, especially in your case and in my case as followers of Christ, it keeps us dependent on God.
Yes. Come on now.
Dependent
Yes.
fully. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah. And
Mhm.
so earlier you spoke about work-life balance, how you've always been big on that. You've been big on purpose. And so, Melody, how has your, or no, 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 discuss a time, if you can think of it, on this entrepreneurial path where your ministry and entrepreneurial work intersected and how that affected your approach to both.
Mm. You know what? They actually always intersect, to be
Ah,
honest. To be honest. And I think sometimes we can segment our life out, especially when it comes to the spiritual world.
mhm.
We can say we want our secular side of life and we want our spiritual side of life. And it's almost like when people say, I don't want my food to touch.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I mean? I don't want my
I
food. And
like
in
that
my mind, I'm like,
comparison.
it's all going down the same way anyway. What do you mean?
Yeah, that's a good way of
And
looking at it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I think for me, and in my mind, I feel like I try to, it's almost like when we say separation of church and state.
Mhm.
Can we really separate it? Like for real, for real? I really feel like you can't. You can try, but somewhere it always is just meant to be like salt and pepper. It's meant to kind of go together. And so I think for my spiritual life and walk, um, you can say you have things you do at church, and then you have your work, and your business and things of that
Mhm.
nature. But I can't separate the two. Like the people I meet are mostly faith walking people.
Yeah,
Hence yourself, right?
yeah.
The people that God puts me in rooms with and connect with, they are typically involved in ministry.
Mm,
Pastors' wives and and leading this ministry or that, and it's like you can't really separate the two. And I've had this
mm,
book that I got from a young lady maybe a year or two ago. I think she's from the Tidewater area, and she has a book where she wrote about kingdom entrepreneurship.
mm,
um, and I thought that was a really good good way to bring it into perspective that I believe God intertwines the two.
mhm,
He calls you into the kingdom and working in the kingdom. And he just applies, your entrepreneurial abilities, and it's all an assignment altogether.
mhm.
You know what I mean? Whether you're in the walls of the church doing something, Or if you're out, with everyday people, he's going to use
Yeah.
who you are, who you are in every arena. And if you stand on your faith and you aren't ashamed and you believe that, it's going to ooze out of who you are anyway. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Um,
I
so it
do.
just blends. I personally don't feel like you can really successfully separate the two.
Hmm.
You
And
know?
while you do the organization business more so as a solopreneur, you also do the property management, and that is for short-term rentals. And you actually have a business partner in
Mhm.
that venture. So, what is the importance? Say if there's somebody listening who want to do full-time entrepreneurship, what is the importance of having a partner or a team on this
Mhm.
journey?
Okay. Um, so that's a different experience, right?
Uh-huh.
And I appreciate both, right? Some parts of us, we love to be the boss, right? We get
Hmm.
to do everything the way we want and move at our own pace, and that's cool. But I also appreciate my partnership with my partner that we do the short-term rental business,
Hmm.
and literally getting involved with him it wasn't, I didn't go looking for it. I didn't handpick him. God handpicked him really because
Yeah.
I prayed about it. I knew I wanted to get involved with real estate on some level because I've always liked real estate. That was a favorite pastime of my own with my mom.
Hmm.
We'd go look at houses and I just kind of like that feel. Um, and so I knew I saw a girl on it's not a podcast, but it was on Instagram. I don't know if you Earn Your Leisure. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but
Mm-mm.
they couple of young men that they actually teach different ways that you can kind of, do business, entrepreneurship,
Hmm.
income, so on and so forth. A good group
Okay.
of guys they to follow. But I found a young lady was on there and she was teaching about short-term rental business. And I listened to her and I was like, oh my goodness, I want to try this because my biggest issue was I don't have the money to get started the way I wanted to. And she presented a way to do it where you could rent using using rental property, you can do the
Yeah.
short-term rental. And I said, oh my God, I want to try this. It was like the light that I needed to be able to say, I can do this. And so I prayed about it because I was like, let me get my sister to do it with me. And she was like, yeah, she wasn't really showing the level of interest I was looking for. And then I had two cousins who are realtors and they were like kind of interested, but I got the sense that it wasn't really priority or they didn't really have the time. So I prayed. I was like, Lord, well, who can I do this with? Like, I feel like I need help. And one of my husband's friends, actually, and he's actually really family. He's
Hmm.
my husband's cousin's brother, just a wife's brother, but he
Okay.
is family.
I
Um,
understand. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so he called me. I actually sent him the video and I said, hey, because he actually worked in the hospitality industry, like for
Oh,
Marriott for years.
yeah.
And I thought this would be a good thing for him. And I sent it with the sheer intention to just say, hey, if you're ever looking at doing your own thing, this might be a good idea. You might be into it. Sent it to him, and that was it. He calls me back and was like, hey, like this sounds good. Let's do it. And I'm like, huh?
Wow.
And
Uh-huh.
it paused me because I was like, me and him partners? I was like, I don't know about that. I was like, I'm not sure. And so kept it in prayer and talked through some things with my husband, everything. And because my husband wasn't in the place where he was trying to do it, it just worked. And so we started meeting. He was serious. He was serious, and so much he was traveling a month, hour to get to my house like every week. And the timing was perfect. He was just lost his job and he was traveling every week. And we were like, it moved like this, and we were on it, and there was no resistance, and we kind of just
Wow.
took off with it. So I was like, okay, God, I get it. Thank you. You know exactly what we needed. So, and that's how it went. And it's been a blessing because you can split the load. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And you get more done and you get two perspectives. So
What
I
was
like
your what was your initial hesitancy? Was it because it didn't come in the way that you expected it to come?
So there was two things. Because I thought of partnership and I was like,
Oh.
well, when you work with partnerships, you kind of work pretty close with whoever you're working with. And I thought this is something I can do with my husband. You know what I mean? Like
Uh-huh.
we can do this thing together. And then I thought, well, I'm gonna probably be spending quite a bit of time with with my partner, which that way I wasn't looking at it like any issues romantically or anything like
Of
that. It
course.
wasn't
No,
that.
no, no.
But yeah, but
Yeah.
it was even though that can be some issues getting in
Yeah.
partnerships, but it wasn't that. It was more now we're going to be I want to be serious about this, and I didn't want. I just felt like it was going to be kind of hard to manage that whole thing, and then I'm like, we'll be working on this together, and then I have my other business, and then and I didn't know how he might feel about it and stuff like that, and so and again, like I say, I wanted to do it with him, right? But my husband's picky about getting in business with anybody,
Uh-huh.
right? And sometimes you should be, but um he was okay with it. He kind of encouraged it and was like, cool. And so he's actually been a part of our beginnings, which was cool because he knows a little bit about everything. And he helped us make some choices in the beginning and kind of guided us about, the partnership and all that
Mhm.
type of stuff. And so the fact that him and my partner were roommates for a couple of times, they
Uh-huh.
already knew each other very well. And so that was my initial hesitance in going into partnership and then just
Yeah.
wondering how's this going to work, so but it worked out
Uh-huh.
and it's still working out.
It really has. And Lord knows I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but I know that I would be like, oh, why does he want to partner with me? And do I really want to be bothered? And is it gonna be like group work growing up where I'm the one doing everything? I don't know
Mm,
about this guy. So
right, right,
I would
right.
have had a lot of questions too. But what I
Yes.
love about it is the fact that sometimes, Mel and listeners,
Hmm.
it can be the thing or the person that we least expect that
Yeah.
God will send
Yep.
that is the best option for us and
Yes.
will take us to the place in life that we've been trying to get to. And if we just
Yes.
trust God with the process
Yes.
and
Yes.
surrender to his will, then
Hmm.
everything comes into place. And I know that we don't have a lot of time left, but this is really, really good. And so this leads me to just the last few questions. But what was a turning point in your entrepreneurial journey that really led you to a significant transformation? And when I say a turning point, that could be the past, it could even be the present. But
Hmm.
what has been a turning point for you that really was like when rubber hit the road and it really started to lead to transformation?
Wow. Okay. Okay. I'm glad now, and now that I think about it, I know exactly what
Mhm.
really did do that for me.
Mhm.
So the turning point, I had already kind of started going down this road, right? But the turning point hit where I was in this place for a while where I kind of was I was not afraid to jump out there, but I had reasons that would kind of bring me back, mostly financial, right? Bring me back into the workplace.
Okay.
And so I had kind of those little false starts, not say false starts, but I wasn't able to sustain myself to just be completely out there. And so what happened was at one point I had already made a leap, I think in like 2016. No, 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 I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This was actually my first like kind of big leap. But what happened was I had I'm trying to remember it correctly, but I think I had just lost my job or got laid off or something. I can't
Mm.
remember. But I know I was back looking to get another job, right?
Mm.
And I had interviewed a couple of times and I was waiting to hear back, ready to go get another job, get on another project. And an interesting thing happened to me. I had been praying about it. And I got when I was going to go accept, I got an offer from one of the jobs and I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and accept this one. And as I went to go accept it, or I was going to send an email to the HR people, it was a funny thing happened. I got so sleepy, right? It was weird. I got so sleepy before I could send this email, and to the point I couldn't write the email. Like I literally was like, "Oh my God, I feel like I have to go to sleep like right now." And so I kind of just dropped it and just like, let me just take a quick nap. And I took a quick nap. But now I realized after it, I'm like, okay, God had an appointment for me. He needed to
Uh-huh.
talk to me. And so in this nap I had a dream. And in my dream, I I was in a closet right? And I was in a closet. It was a nice brand new closet, but it's no clothes and stuff. And it was like kind of empty, like a new house or something. And I'm in this closet, and for whatever reason, I'm the door's closed. And I'm like in there and I can't get out, or anything like that. And I'm looking around and I'm just like, why am I in here? Right. And then shortly after that, I hear this banging on the door, like the door of the house.
Mhm.
So I'm hearing this banging. I'm like, oh my God, okay, I need to open this door. And then so I'm like, and then I was like, oh my God, I'm stuck. I'm in this closet. I can't get to the door. I can't get to the door. And then so I'm panicking because the door keeps knocking, and I can't get to the door. And I'm like, how am I going to get out of here? I'm like about to panic. How am I going to get out of here? I can't answer the door. And then so I reach, and what I remember is from childhood, we used to have these doors that you could lock. But there was always a little key, like a
Oh
metal piece of the
yeah.
key on top, and you could stick it
Yeah.
in the door and pop it, and it will open.
Exactly. Uh-huh.
And so, and so I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get out of here. And then so I was trying to feel up there. I didn't feel anything, and I'm looking around like, how am I to get out of here? And I looked on the floor, and I saw was it a bobby pin? I think it was.
Mhm.
And we used to use bobby pins or like
Mhm.
things of that nature. And so I was like, yes. So I grabbed the bobby pin, pulled it apart, and I pushed it in the little thing, and it popped it and it opened. And then when it opened, I woke up. And I was
Interesting.
like, yeah, and I was like, I woke up and I was like, huh? Like that was weird. Because it was short. It wasn't that long.
Yeah.
But then I sat there with it, and I kind of just, prayed to myself and prayed in my mind, and was like, what does that mean? Like, Lord, why that was a weird dream. Why did I have that? And it was almost like he downloaded in my mind in that moment what
Mm.
it meant. And so what he was showing me was you have locked yourself in this closet. You have locked yourself in this closet. And these opportunity that's coming, this knock on this door, you can't get to it because you're in this closet that you put yourself in. And
Mm.
then I'm like, oh. And then my
Wow.
next thought is, well, what? And then it was like immediately after that, it's like, but you have to let yourself out. You're the only one who can let yourself out of this closet. And I was just like, epiphany.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
I was like, OMG. And it was like the answer to my prayers, because I was battling with, should I go back into the office? Should I not? Should I, because I
Yeah.
knew I needed the sustainment of a job, but I was also like, I want to get out here. I want to do this. And it was like he was showing me that you keep going back to this crutch, but you're blocking this opportunity that keeps knocking. And
Wow.
you're the only one who can get out. Right? You're the only one who can let yourself out. And so in the dream, I popped the lock, and it's like, you let yourself out. So that was at this moment I'm about to take this job. It made me realize, I said, okay, I can't take the job. And so I turned it down. I prayed over the weekend, fasted. I told Ezekiel, I think we were just engaged at that point,
Mhm.
about to be married. And I was like, I think God is showing me that this is the time for me to just step out here. And then shortly after that, I got my first job through my husband. He had a senior who wanted work done, and she gave me
Oh.
like 2 weeks worth of work right off the bat. And that was a more confirmation that God was like, I already have opportunities waiting for you. If you let yourself out of this closet and trust
Woo!
me, girl, it was just like,
Wow.
wow. And that
Yeah.
that was pivotal for me. That made
Trust
me
me.
realize he's
God.
not gonna pull you and call you somewhere and not prepare the way.
I
You got to
believe
trust
that.
him though. And don't close yourself in closets that he's not
Girl,
coming.
look at you. I believe. Oh my gosh. Trust me. I love that story, Mel. I love it.
Thank you.
And I
Thank you.
think that leads to $1 million question, is that
Okay.
for anyone listening, especially people who may be in the corporate field or they know somebody in the corporate world, but they want to pursue your passions, what is a piece of wise counsel that you would give to aspiring entrepreneurs who are contemplating leaving their
Mhm.
corporate jobs to pursue their passions?
Okay. Well, I started back then, and it's pretty much almost done. I did start a course called Ready, Set, Leap. And now changes have happened, so I left it alone for a while, but it's still I'm gonna resurface it at some
Okay.
point. I'm even thinking maybe next week year.
Okay.
Maybe by
Ooh.
then, but right. But it could become before that. But one of the things I would give is don't lose sight of that vision, because there's a reason. If God keeps pulling it on you, there's a reason. There's people who need whatever it is he's grooming you for. Somebody out there, or tons of people. You don't know how big your clan is that he has that needs what you have. Believe in what he's put inside of you. Believe that he has a purpose, and he expects us to believe him. Like in the Bible, they talk about you without faith, you can't please God, right? And we talk about we want to please God. You got to have faith and believe that he is going to, whatever he's preparing you for, he's already made way for it. He's already made way for it. The people are there, the opportunities are there. So don't, even in the struggles and difficulties, don't lose sight that he's already prepared the way, right? So trust that. And then also keep wise counsel around you. Be wise. Also, strategy. I think strategy is huge. Pray about everything. Know that things go in cycles and seasons. Everything's not going to happen the way you think all the time, but don't give up. Don't think, well, it didn't work, let me just forget about it. No, you just, you might have to make an adjustment. You might have to shift, right? So just continue in prayer about it, a few person of faith, right? And then and utilize the help that he sends you in different form, right? And his timing is perfect. He knows how to time things, and he knows who to keep to bring your way and where to bring you. And so just trust the journey, and take it in stride, and just whistle while you work, right?
Yeah.
Just move along with it and enjoy the process, enjoy the journey.
No doubt about it. Yeah. If someone wants to connect with you in being your potential client, Melody, how can you help them? And then also, how can they connect with you?
Okay. I'm a small business. It's just me for the Sassy Spaces portion, or my home organization business. So I'm flexible when it comes to projects, as long as it's something I can manage. I do have a couple people I can, kind of contract out and work with. But I'm very personable, so someone can get in contact with me. Either you can go to my website, and there's a way you can, reach out to me through there. Sassy
What's your
Spaces
website?
It's Sassy Spaces Organizing. Go ahead.
Can you actually spell it out, please?
Sure. So it's sassyspacesOrganizing.com, which is SASSYSPACES organizing ORGANIZING.com. It's long, but Sassy Spaces Organizing. So I have that as a website. And then I also have a product line coming out, Sassy Solutions .shop, right? And so those are the home organizing products that accompany my organizing business. And those both are handles on Instagram as well. Sassy Spaces on Instagram is my home organization business, and Sassy Solutions .shop is the product line. And also, I'm trying to think, those are the ways you can reach me, and I can help you with home organization projects. And also we do a little bit of interior decorating, and I'm looking to possibly get into the closet design kind of arena as well. So we do offer services for that too. So yeah, we're open to help out in whatever way. I'm personable, reach out to me, and I can see what way I can help you the best way I can.
And when is the product line coming out?
So my launch, if it's in the final stages now, I'm looking at probably possibly to late June.
Okay.
So next month. Yeah. So hopefully at least by the end of next month, you should be seeing that. And I'm going to very shortly here start having promotions on Instagram about it.
Okay.
And I have my first product is a laundry sorter, which is a product I love. If you don't have one, you need one.
So I'll tell you what, I'm going to keep in touch with you either way. And what I'll do is I'll release this episode once the actual product line is out, so that we can get more traffic to your page, so that people can actually buy products. So I will keep in touch with you about that as well. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much, Lily.
Of course.
And I did want to add, I'm working on, and it'll probably be done by then too, a tool that I'm working on called Focus. And it'll be to just basically do for goal setting and time management for entrepreneurs. I find that has been something that has really been helping me kind of manage those goals. And I want to be able to offer that to others. So you'll probably hear about that too.
Oh, that's so exciting. That is so exciting. And I look forward to everything that is coming out. And as this closing question, this is what I want to ask you. As a closing question, Melody, when it comes to this journey and this pivot and this space that you've made for yourself, what do you think is the greatest lesson that all of this has taught you?
The greatest lesson. Wow. Just keep believing. I think, don't give up. If it's something that's really in your heart, be flexible with the timeline sometimes. Know that life happens. But for me, it's kind of like failure is not an option. When I know the God I serve, and I know if it's something that He has put in me, I know He's going to see it through. Right.
Yeah.
And so I just again take it in stride and keep going. I keep going. I keep renewing, keep reinventing, keep pivoting, whatever it takes. But it's something that's there that others need, and so I just feel like it's my responsibility to continue to push to get it out there.
Wow. Melody, it was such an honor. I could go on and on talking with you about it, but I want to be respectful of your time. Thank you so much for gracing us today on the Power Transformation Podcast. And I hope and pray nothing but continued success for you. I know there were more things that we talked about offline, but I want you to save those for you. And I think that all you have shared here is just perfect for what our listeners need at this time and place in your life. And also, I can't wait for the product line to actually come out. And as I said, we will support you in that as well. And to just keep going. You have always been such a light to me and have consistently, you're 3 years older than I am, but I can honestly say from the time I first met you, when I was a young little teenage freshman in high school, all the way up.
I remember you, the grocery store, right?
Oh yeah, when I worked, yeah. Wow, yeah. So even from there and all these years later, almost practically 30 years later, just about, you have just consistently just had a heart for people and have always just exhibited kindness. And y'all, when I tell you, when you can honestly say a person has consistently had the same character over the decades, that's what I mean, is that you have been nothing but just love and the epitome of a true friend when it comes to my sister. And I really, really appreciate your friendship with her and how you always made me feel a part of the group, although I was the little
yes,
sister.
You are. Look, I have a little sister. I know. You are part of the group.
Yeah. I love you, girl. And just thank you so much. Thank you.
And thank you. I want to thank you so much because you have truly been a light and an inspiration, especially with this podcast. I just wish you all the best of just blessing with all of it. And I just thank you for pursuing. You are the strength that you have through things that you've encountered and dealt with. You are truly a light and an inspiration. And I thank you. I thank you for inviting me on here. And of course, I love you to the moon and back, right? Yes. You and your family. So thank you so much.
Yes, really. Girl. And I love you too.
If you enjoyed today's show, then you don't want to miss an episode. So follow the Power Transformation Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you usually listen. And remember to rate and review. I also invite you to connect with me on social media at Alethea Felton. That's at ALETHEAFELTON. Until next time, remember to be good to yourself and to others.